Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 12, Abstraction and Process. So, this week, we're not talking about a specific movement or a time period in history. We're talking about abstraction and process as a separate genre, a development that happened in the history of art. During the advent of modernism. So, last week, we looked at neoclassicism, romanticism, and realism, right? So, romanticism is like when abstraction kind of first, like the first ideas of abstraction kind of formulated. And then as we enter modernism, we'll see more and more abstraction. Okay, and as we enter postmodernism, we'll start seeing process. All right, let's begin. Okay, so abstract art started in the late 19th century with Romanticism. Okay, so if you look at Romanticism, it's not actually like fully abstract. It's not even partially abstract. There's very little traces of abstraction and artists using their imagination in Romanticism. So that's what it started with, very minor things. Okay, and then it further developed into Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and Expressionism. And then by the early 20th century, abstraction was the norm, and that came with Fauvism, Cubism, and Futurism. And abstract art, or abstraction, is it's a visual language, and shape, form, color, line, to create a composition, and it exists with a degree of independence from visual reference in the world. What does that mean? That means that abstraction that we see in art is not reflective of what we see in real life. So when you make abstract art, you're referring to things that exist in real life, but you won't be expressing it in a way that it reflects real life. So even if it references things that already exist, you'll be presenting a different view of it. Maybe you're showing not like a visual reference to the object you're drawing, but the way the object feels in your mind. Okay, so a lot of abstract art kind of look like feelings. If you draw your feelings, you have two options, right? You can draw your expression, your facial expression, or your gestures, like your body gestures, to express that emotion, or you can draw a very abstracted set of lines or shapes or forms that represent your emotions or feelings. So those are two different ways you can approach art. But when it comes to abstract art, when artists are expressing their feelings, they're using their own visual language, which includes shapes, forms, and colors and lines, to create what they think their feelings would look like visually. I hope that makes sense. And abstract art indicates a departure from reality in depiction of imagery, whether it is slight, partial, or complete. So we're going to see some slight abstraction, and then partial abstraction, and then complete abstraction, mostly in abstract expressionist movement. Okay, and then total abstraction bears no resemblance to reality. For example, geometric abstraction. And then figurative and representational art often contain partial abstraction, which is either intentional or unintentional, Abstraction can be, it can be unintentional, but usually it's intentional. It's the intention of the artist that's really important. That's what the ideas of the artist is what drives the ideas behind the art. So an artist is kind of like a pilot piloting an airplane to go somewhere specific, right? Without the artist having a specific direction, for example, intentional abstraction, the viewer may only interpret it as, they're not going to actually see abstraction because that's maybe not what the artist intended. And that's why in Project 1, we had to submit writings, like a short paragraph of what we painted, because even if a painting is painted really well, the viewer may not interpret it in the way that the artist intended, right? So the artist always has to explain, and that's a big part of the professional art industry. Is actually a lot of it is written and spoken. You got to be able to talk about your art, talk about your intentions, and how you arrived to your artwork. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's look at Romanticism. We saw this piece before last week. This is Eugene Delacroix, Liberty Leading the People, and I think I mentioned this in the lecture, but this is not, well, this is liberty, but it's not literally liberty, right? Liberty is a concept. It's not a tangible thing. It's not a person, right? But Eugene Delacroix, he painted liberty as a woman. And so he had to use his imagination, and he probably used a model to paint this figure. But either way, it's an abstraction of what liberty is. Okay, so let's look at this piece. This piece, I don't even know if it's an actual landscape. It may be 100% from the artist's mind, or maybe the artist is looking at multiple references, maybe sitting in front of a canyon somewhere in France, and I think this is an angel, right? I mean, you're not going to see an actual person with wings in real life, right? So obviously this is made up, right? And so there's abstraction going on. There's a halo, right? So even things like this, they can be considered abstraction depending on the degree and the intention of the artist. But also, as the viewers, we don't know if this is real or what it's referencing, right? So to us, it can be partially abstract. Even things like this, I mean, I don't think these flowers, these are some really big flowers. Flowers are not this big, right? Here's an angel, and these flowers are like bigger than the angel's head. So there's a lot of artistic freedom that's going on. Okay, so this is a movement called Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau had a huge impact in the world of art. It started in France. So this movement, the name of the movement, Art Nouveau, it literally means new art. And Art Nouveau was a very significant movement because it was very, very influential worldwide. And I mean, if you look at a piece like this, it looks really modern. It looks like something that's made in contemporary times. But if you look at the years here, the prints, it says 1898. This is like 130 years old. A 130-year-old print looks incredibly contemporary, right? So Art Nouveau was way ahead of its time, and it actually influenced design quite a bit, to the point that, I mean, we're still using it. Like, it was very influential. And another invention that really helped the designer quality of Art Nouveau was the printmaking processes, the printing press. So books could be mass produced, right? With printing presses, you mass produce books, and that's one of the reasons religion got so big, Christianity got so big in the Western Hemisphere, was because of the invention of the printing press. And so they could print the Bible, they could mass produce the Bible and spread it very easily, right? Well, with Art Nouveau, the printing press helped with the reproduction of art, and art became like an industrial process where woodcuts, lithography, they could be printed much more easily with presses, and then these were mostly hand colored. So when you first print this, it's like a black and white, or like just the contour lines. In this case, just the brown lines. You would print it, and then you would get gouache or watercolor to print. I mean, to paint the inside, and so you get this beautiful piece of work. I don't even know if this is considered a work of fine art. Looks to me more maybe a form of advertisement, maybe, or a flyer for an event. Either way, this is from the Art Nouveau movement, and so is this piece. This is a piece by Gustav Klimt. A lot of you may have seen this already. This piece is called The Kiss, and it is probably Klimt's most famous piece of work. He uses actual gold leaf in his artwork. So this is a painting with actual gold leaf on it. So the artists' names and the piece titles are not included because this lecture, you don't have to actually memorize any artists or the title of the pieces, but just remember what you're seeing. If you see these very designer-like qualities, you need to be able to recognize that it's Art Nouveau. Okay, now we move on to Impressionism. This is a piece by Claude Monet, Impression Sunrise. And we start to see some very like loose brushstrokes, right? So maybe it's not an intentional abstraction. Maybe Monet wanted to emphasize more on the individual like quality of the brushstrokes, and see how it's very rough, right? So the brushstrokes themselves become objects, right? So just one brushstroke right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, like all these brushstrokes, they represent ripples in the water, right? And these orange brushstrokes, very rough, but these individual orange brushstrokes represent the reflection of the sun in the ripples of the water, right? So now we start to see a bit more process-driven paintings, where the painting tool leaves a very specific mark, and those very simple marks represent objects, right? Like look at these crude boats that were painted on. I mean, I'm guessing this is a boat. This one you can see it's a boat, right? This one, I don't know. I don't know how many brushstrokes this took. Maybe one, two, three, just several brushstrokes. But we can still tell that it's a boat because, well, there's another boat here, and it kind of looks similar, right? So these paintings, they take a lot of liberty with, in using the painting tools, and also they start to employ our own imaginations and our own perception of the world. And so these impressionists, they're not so interested in painting these accurately, okay, individual things. They're more interested in capturing the light. Okay, so we'll start to see more and more artistic freedom that'll start happening. Okay, another Claude Monet piece. It's a very beautiful piece. Lots of purple and pink to really portray the way light reacts to these buildings and to the water, right? This one is called La Grande Canal. And I think this is Venice or Florence. I think it's Venice. And this is Venice Cathedral, which is this is the canal, the Venice Canal. And this is Venice Cathedral right along the canal.